Well, as the COP27 conference continues in Egypt, one of the issues under discussion is around a just energy transition for the African continent. Yesterday, President Cyril Ramaphosa appealed to the chairperson of the conference for higher scale funding streams and technological support for poorer countries, including South Africa. Dr. Roland Ngam is Program Manager for Climate Justice and Socioecological Transformation at the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation for Southern Africa. Dr. Ngam, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. Firstly, being at this conference in person and getting a sense of the conversations that are taking place there, how different would you say that this year is from any of the other COPs that have been held before? This is COP27, so we've been on this road for some time now.
Yes, Kathy, and like UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres was saying yesterday, we are on a highway to climate hell because we've been talking for a very, very long time, and it seems like we take one step forward and then two steps backwards. The question, to your question, this year is going to be very, very difficult because all those who were convinced last year that we had to keep it in the ground are this year revisiting their positions. Coal and gas really making a big comeback after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And many African countries that last year were just hoping for a bit of money to start their just transition processes are receiving lots of money for oil and gas projects. Are they even going to listen to countries that make pledges this year, given that some of these countries have not been honoring their pledges for a very, very long time? All these questions make for a very, very difficult COP.
I think the point that you're raising, Dr. Ngam, is an important one, because this conflict that is taking place in Ukraine right now has really shifted a lot in terms of the dynamics we're dealing with internationally. And when we look at this conversation around renewable energy, even in a country like South Africa, you have people looking at what has been happening in Germany and parts of Europe and saying, well, actually, maybe renewable energy is not that reliable, because we're seeing these big countries go back to your more traditional fossil fuels. So when it comes to then trying to see the actual progress and change of conversation, what do you think it's going to take to do that? Because unfortunately, the developments of this year have certainly not bode well in as far as arguments that seek to delegitimize a move or transition to renewable energy is concerned.
Yes. I think the first point we need to say is that the world is not going to stop using coal because we run out of coal. It is because we have cleaner and cheaper sources of energy. Some cities around the world have shown that it is possible to make that transition. Sydney, for example, indicated just a few weeks ago that right now it runs only on wind and gas and solar, rather. But then to make that transition, you need a lot of money. Because let's take the case of South Africa. If we are to transition to clean energy sources or even reduce the carbon footprint, it will take billions of dollars. Now, Komati, which is about 1,000 megawatts of electricity, is being decommissioned, and the project around that is $8.5 billion US. Now, Africa, which suffers from energy poverty, and you have seen the energy availability factor of South Africa's coal power plants drop. How do you improve capacity and continue developing at the same level? Why not investing too much of your money on just transitions, because the world needs to drop its emissions and stay at 1.5 degrees. All these are really very difficult questions. And for these questions to be answered adequately, African and developing countries are arguing at this COP that we need to receive money for loss and damage. That is, the countries that have caused the biggest rise in warming since 1850 must pay the global south. And this is going to come not only in the form of money, but also in the form of technology transfers, so that African countries can also start using the kind of clean energy sources that are cheaper as well. But just one last point as well. All this has to be done without leaving anyone behind. And so we all need to be convinced of the capacity of these new energy sources and the reliability as well. And also the trade unions and all the workers need to be part of this journey.
All right. Dr. Roland Ngam, we're going to have to leave it there for tonight. Program Manager for Climate Justice and Socio-Ecological Transformation at the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation.